Has it been Prabhupada preached for you? It was proper sleeping was beat.
Hare
Zu viel Spielraum. Also manche Harmonien sind wirklich qualvoll zu spielen.
Soll ich zumachen oder?
Nicht. Ja. Das sollte nicht sein. In Polen, an harmonium sounds like an organ like in the times of Johann Sebastian Bach. Das ist so unglaubliche Töne. Ne? Und das ist stabil, das ist also richtig stabil. Das kann man auch zusammennehmen, aber das wiegt doppelt so schwer wie dies. Ne? Also wirklich schwer und perfekt. Ein Sang, das ist also Wahnsinn. Da kann man gar nicht aufhören zu chanten. Das ist so tief. Ne? I'm going to get myself one of those. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Wo sind wir hier?
4, 6, 42.
6,43.
42.
Okay. Brahmavacha. Jane tvam isham vishvasya. Jagato yogi bijayo. Shakti shivasya chaparam. Yattat brahma nirantanam. Yattat brahma nirantaram. Brahmavacha. Jami tvamisham vishvasya. Jagato yogi bijayo. Shakti shivasya chaparam. Yattat brahma nirantaram.
Brahmavacha Janetvam Isham Vishvasya Jagato Yoni Bijayo Shakti Shivasya
Which city did my man from?
Translate from German.
Okay. Somebody is a ladies? Brahmavacha.
Janetam isham vishvasya.
Janetvam isham vishvasya.
Jagato joni bijayo.
Jagato yoni bijayo.
Shakti shivasya chaparam.
Shakti shivasya chaparam.
Jatat brahma nirantaram.
Yattat brahma nirantaram. Brahmavacha. Lord Brahma said, Jani, I know, Tvam, you, Lord Shiva. Isham, the controller, Vishvasya, of the entire manifestation. Jagata, it's a cosmic manifestation. Yoni Bijayo, of both the mother and the father. Shakti, of potency. Shivasya, of Shiva. Cha, and. Param, the supreme. Yat, which? Tat, that. Brahma, without change. Nirantaram, with no material qualities. Lord Brahma said, my dear Lord Shiva, I know that you are the controller of the entire material manifestation, the combination of father and mother of the cosmic manifestation, and the supreme Brahman beyond the cosmic manifestation as well. I know you in that way. But although Lord Brahma had received very respectful obeisance from Lord Shiva, He knew that Lord Shiva was in a more exalted position than himself. Lord Shiva's position is described in Brahma Samhita. There's no difference between Lord Vishnu and Lord Shiva in their original positions, but still Lord Shiva is different from Lord Vishnu. The example is given that milk is yogurt. The milk in yogurt is not different from the original milk from which it is made. Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So from our scriptures we can understand that there are two Shivas. You all understand English? Yeah? So, there are two Shivas. One Shiva is actually a manifestation of Advaita Acharya. Advaita. Advaita Acharya is the only person in the Panchatattva who has a beard. Why is that? Because Lord Chaitanya told all the other fellows, you have to shave your head. Of course, he himself gone into head. But he didn't dare, not shaving head, beard. He would not tolerate people with beards, because beard is not considered Vaishnava. So those who have beards in the room, the girls don't have this problem. But if there's any man who have a beard, they should shave that up. Prabhupada didn't like that. But he didn't say it to Advaita Acharya because Advaita Acharya is older than him. He's older. He's one level higher in age. And so you don't instruct a person older. Out of that reason, Advaita Acharya has a beard, or no other reason, And so from him manifests Sadashiva. Sadashiva is Shiva in the spiritual world. It's not in the material world. Sadashiva, there's a part of the spiritual world, a little part at the bottom, where this Sadashiva is living. And he is, in one sense, he's Vishnu, but in another sense, he's also Shiva. There's a clear difference between Sadashiva and the Shiva in the Vaikuntha planets, although his abode is part of the Vaikunthas. And now this Shiva, when Krishna says, Aham Bija Pradapita, I'm the father of all creatures, Bhagavad Gita, right? Bhagavad Gita, yeah. Sava Yonishu Kauntiya. Sava Yonishu, of all living beings. It's important to know. Of all living beings. Krishna just didn't say just of human beings. Of all beings, including every little worm on the road. So, Sava Yonishu Kauntiya. And then he said, Aham Bija Pradapita, I'm the father of them all. So that father, we should understand who that is. That is actually certainly not Nanda Kumar. It is certainly not Krishna in the spiritual world. It is Sadashiva. Sadashiva looks at Parvati. No, not Parvati. Ramadevi. Ramadevi is a manifestation of Maya in the material world. He looks at Ramadevi, and the glance of his look, he doesn't touch. He's in the spiritual world. He doesn't touch anything material. But he glances at Ramadevi, and the halo of this glance, these are the living energies that are injected into the womb of Ramadevi. And she's the wife of the Shiva we know in the material world. The Shiva in the material world is not the Shiva in the spiritual world. The Shiva in the spiritual world is Vishnu Tattva, and he has nothing to do, like I said, it's an expansion of Advaita Acharya, and has nothing to do whatsoever with the material world. So he just glances. You see, God doesn't touch the material energy, He wants nothing to do with it. He just glances. You may glance at a woman, that doesn't mean that you have anything to do with her. You can glance one time or not a second time. First glance is okay, you can't avoid it. Second, that's where the problem starts. Then comes the third and then the fourth. So his glance, the halo of this glance, these are the living entities that he injects into the womb of Ramadev. And so that's the Shiva we know in the material world, who is worshipped in the linga, in the Shiva linga. That is actually the process of procreation by Shiva and Parvati. Is symbolized by the worship of Shiva linga. That's a phalum, a phallic symbol. And so that celebrates the marriage between Ramadev and Shiva. And this Shiva is living on Mount Meru, no? Kailash. He lives on Mount Kailash. And I went to when you go to Gangotri or to Yamunotri, there's one place, forgot the name. You have to go this way. That way goes to Gangotri, and that way goes to Gangotri, and that way goes to Yamunotri. And there is a Shiva temple, and the temple has the roof there's a hole in the roof, and there's the trident of Lord Shiva is standing there, so about this big, and it's so big it goes through the roof. It's solid silver. And the Pujari told me, I said, I didn't know that Shiva has such a big trident. He said, Shiva's trident is easily going from the tip of India all the way into Russia. It's so huge. It's so huge, The actual manifestation of Shiva, he becomes small, worship. But he's so huge, it's like a continent, Lord Brahma also has explained that he can hold the whole universe in a sense like a nutshell. These are huge personalities, and so we have no conception, And Shiva, if you insult Shiva, he just has to go. He doesn't have to do anything. He just looks at you and goes on, or he may go like a fly, They are huge personalities, and that lives on Kailash. And here's the thing. That we have to understand the principle of multidimensionality. It's very important. It's a crutch, crutch. It's not perfect knowledge, but it is close to it. It makes it clear. Like, for example, you have to come. Hold this. I want to explain to you the principle of dimensionality. Here is point point A, and here's point B. And there's two ants, they want to go from A to B, right? They want to go from A to B. So the ant, which is two-dimensional, he knows only front, back, left, and right. And she has to go all the way. She cannot see B is right here. But the three-dimensional ant, he can see that. So instead, then they meet, two-dimensional ants starts crawling and crawling. It's finally out of breath, she comes to B, and the other one, the B is resting there. He says, how did you get here? I've not seen you. I said, well, I'm a three-dimensional, my consciousness is three-dimensional. So I can see. And so the same way, when a yogi takes a bath in the Yamuna and appears in say, Allahabad or in Calcutta, it's not that he flies on a carpet 3,000 miles. If he gets just from one room into the other, it's just like one room, there's another room right next to this one. There's a parallel reality. Reality. So even if a demon, he disappears, he just goes from one room into the other. Or even if somebody has the mystic power of prapti, you can take from everywhere, Jesus, he was feeding 4,000 people and then 5,000 people. How did he do that? It's called prapti. Prapti siddhi. It's like you're sitting there with people, and we're all eating, and there's not enough food. He just grabs the next door, there's a window there, and grabs a whole plate of food and puts it in front of them. How that works. It's very clear. It's prapti siddhi, He just takes it from another place. It's a siddhi, And so when Kamsa disappears, when Kamsa wizard, Ravana disappears, he just goes into another room. Easy for him, impossible for us, you know. So that's why we cannot see anything when we go to Mount Kailash, because we are imprisoned in our consciousness, conditioned by 3 dimensions. You know, we cannot see anything. Krishna says, only by undivided devotion can I be seen as I am standing in front of you. So Krishna stands in front of us. We have no idea. And the atheist said, there is no God. God is standing right in front of me. He cannot even say that result. And who helps him to say that there is no God? Krishna, Supersoul. Supersoul tells him, there is no God. He says, there is no God. Krishna has an enormous sense of humor. You know, these people are just like insects for him, you know. They tell them what to do. I'm Stalin, and I will conquer the world, I smash the Germans, or I'm Hitler, I stick all the Jews in the concentration camp. Krishna is deeply involved in that, you know, deeply. Not a blade of grass moves without a sanction, you know. It cannot happen. A concentration cannot happen without the long arm of Krishna. The long arm of Krishna is everywhere. Whatever happens to you, you're suffering, you know, somebody steals from you, you should always understand it is the long arm of Krishna. So he is only the thief, the person who directly interacts with you. But you don't have to, you have to go beyond the immediate cause, to understand the ultimate cause. Sarva Karana Karanam, and that's Krishna. Ishvara Parama Krishna, Sarva Karana Karanam, is the cause of all causes, you know. So the whole material world is just like a gigantic puppet show, you know. You want to be Hitler? Okay, here, come. It's like a how do you say, director says, I want to play Shakespeare. I'm looking for players. Who would like to be Hamlet? Who say, yes, I want to be Hamlet. Who wants to be Hitler? I want to be Hitler. Who wants to be, so people are ready, they want to have particular positions. That drama is written by Krishna, he's the author, he's the writer of the script, Vedanta Krit, he says in Bhagavad Gita, Veda Vid. By all the Vedas I'm known, Vedanta Krit, I'm the writer of the Vedas. So Krishna writes this script, he's a script writer. And you cannot change the script, impossible, you know. The script is there, and there has to be a Hitler, sometimes a Napoleon, sometimes, and some whatever, you know. These are just places people take in this drama. Krishna is the writer, Krishna is the director of the drama, right? He directs the drama at every moment. He's a producer of the drama, and this drama has 4 acts. What are the 4 acts? Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwarka Yuga, Kali Yuga. And the whole thing is called Krishna Productions. It's Krishna Productions, that's all it is. The whole world is just made by Krishna. With all its evils, with all its happiness, with all its distress, don't worry, the Lord is behind it. And therefore, es heißt in Deutsch, wer nur den lieben Gott lässt, let Krishna do his thing. He knows what he is doing. Don't try to interfere, just harmonize. When we harmonize with Krishna, nature is God's instrument. Alone he plays the tune. Alone, nobody else. When we harmonize with Krishna, our future is brighter than the moon. When we harmonize. When we go against the grain, I want to go with my head through the wall. Well, you can go with the head through the wall and fall into a pitch of stool. You know? So Krishna is the producer of this drama, he's the writer of the drama, he manages the director of the drama, and this is all his production. And you cannot, like Bhaktisiddhanta said, you cannot change the thread of destiny by a breath of a hair. You can't. Nobody can. People think, I want to change the world. Fool. You know? Fool. Change yourself first. Right? And those who do so, who actually change themselves, they are able to, they become big people. So people follow the example. They can change, they can actually have an influence on the world only by example. Whatever great man does, the small man follows. Whatever examples he sets by his pursuits, the whole world follows. You can only change the world by example. Prabhupada was exemplary. That's why he could change the world. Krishna allowed him that. He only exemplary person. Like in a company, you give only people who are trusted people. You give responsibility. You have to be trusted. So Krishna has to trust us, and so we have to trust him. So the whole drama in the material world, we can see only a little bit of it. Just like, if you take, for example, this book, you said, I know Srimad Bhagavatam. What do you know about it? Well, I've seen the cover. That's about what we know from the spiritual world, just the cover, But we don't see that Shata Shiva, not Shata Shiva, the Shiva in the material world is sitting there in great gravity on Mount Kailash. You see only the feet. Like if you see the feet of this harmonium here, the feet of this little chair, it's not that you see the harmonium, you see nothing. You see that's also reality. That's definitely a clear, a little, but it's just a little piece of the reality, a section, So our knowledge is very little. So I know the truth. I know there is no God, Humanity is foolish people. Namam duskitinu muda prabharyanti naranama. Fools don't surrender to me. Muda means fool. How many times Krishna ridicules the materialists in the material world? How many times he insults them? He insults them. He says, Namaskar to men who are like hogs, dogs, camels, and asses. How do you feel if somebody calls you hogs, dogs, camels, and ass? He declares humans in the Bhagavad Gita with the word muda 5 times. 5 times. The Bhagavad Gita is full of insult, full of Beleidigung. Beleidigt die fools and rascals. Namam duskitinu muda. Fools cannot understand me. So scientists, even we have this huge CERN contraption in Switzerland, 30 kilometers, I believe, across. It's underground. And it's called the particle accelerator, where the accelerating particles, very small particles of energy, by magnets. Here's a magnet, here's one, they're stronger, and so the particles start moving like mad, And then there's a fork. One particle, a normal particle goes this way and others they go that way, And then they slam into these particles, head-to-head collision. They're trying to evaluate the Big Bang. Big Bang, The whole scientists, when they started this machine, many scientists in the world warned them and said, don't do that, you may create a black hole. And you may, with this machine, the whole world may be devoured. Dangerous, And they said, well, let's try it out. Let's see what happens. Opening bottles, Opening, but let's try it out. Let's see what happens, Fortunately, Krishna didn't allow it to happen because there's a Hare Krishna movement, and the Hare Krishna movement will change the world. That's Krishna's program. It's predicatory. You can't lose that, Prabhupada said, one day people will know that the Hare Krishna movement saves the whole world. Prabhupada said that one time. The whole world, people will know. One time, people will know. So because of the Hare Krishna movement, since things are going on, otherwise he would have just rubbished the whole world already and throw the whole world, including all the demons, into a rubbish bin. So we can do that anytime. Somebody told me the other day that one flare, the sun sometimes he has flares, some fire beam comes out. One big sun flare would completely destroy all the computers of the world, all the electricity cables, everything from one moment to another, no electricity. And then what? No light, no food, no transport, no nothing. Everything was by a flick of Krishna's finger, Demons are not powerful. Krishna can just go like this, and cuts them out of their life from one moment to another. So God is unlimitedly powerful, and we see only of that powerful reality a very small section, you know. And the more we actually serve Krishna and approach Krishna in a humble attitude, the more Krishna allows us to see him. The curtain goes gradually, cannot see Prithu now, but it says more service, gradually the curtain goes open. You know, this is how that works. You know, according, ye yatamam prapadyati, as he surrenders unto me, I reward him. You know, like a man who works very hard for a company, he becomes elevated to, gradually becomes a top worker, he becomes the director of a department, ultimately he becomes a member of the boardroom. This idea, I want to see God, is ridiculous. It's completely ridiculous, you know. There was this yogi, famous yogi in our time, transcendental meditation. You know? I don't want to name the name. You know, the beginning of his name is Maha, and the other part is Rishi. Anyway, so he said when he left his body that people said, "Where do you go, Maharaj?" And they said, "I'm going to shake hands with Krishna. He's going to wake up." No one of our sages, no big, how big Rupa Goswami would ever dare to say such a thing, to shake your hand with God. They're saying, I want to be just an atom at his lotus feet. And just a piece of grass in Goloka that the gopis walk on me. Nobody would think in a dream. This is such a ridiculous, imposturous, foolish sum and substance of nonsense and foolishness to say such a thing. You know, it's foolish. And thousands of people follow him. Thousands of people follow him. Somehow or other, Krishna told me in 1968 when I went to college, he told me that this man is a fool. Krishna told me that this man is a fool. Here's a story. I was living in an anarchist, it's very instructional. I was living in an anarchist community, in a commune. Alles geht runter und drüber. And I read, I was a communist, was APU, the students were rebellion and throwing Molotov cocktails, that generation. So I was living in my commune and I opened the newspaper and said, Maharishi, a self-realized guru, is, I shouldn't say this name actually, forget this. There's a self-realized guru who comes into our university to give a lecture on self-realization. So I said, that is completely ridiculous. What self-realization? This is ridiculous. This is the old society, you know, people from back hundreds of years old, they talk about these things. Let's go then disturb his lecture. Umfunktionieren, wie man das nannte, turn to something else. And so we went there, this is a true story, I can't lie in front of Rodney Shingadev. We went there, and I was a gang leader of that group, or 10 people, and said, he came down, you know, with holding a rose, you know. 10 went down in the middle of the auditorium, sat down and said, ladies and gentlemen. And I said, now, 1, 2, 3. Yogi Bear, Yogi Bear, Yogi Bear. He couldn't speak. He said, gentlemen, please, Yogi Bear, Yogi Bear. We screamed for about 10 minutes, you know. He said, I have to go. He said, no use. So here it is. He passed me by. He came this side, he passed me down because he had seen who was doing this. He passed me by and took his rose and smashed it on my head. And I had a tear here. I said, that is not a yogi. I said to my friend, he's just a fool. A yogi doesn't do that. I could understand Krishna. It was really the super soul telling me. I said, that is not a yogi, that's a fool, you know. And he became even more angry. He was about to give me a swing, you know. And so I was just a small boy. I didn't have much understanding, but I spoke the truth. Because by the end of life, it comes out where somebody is the man wants to shake hands with Krishna and a fool. Only fools talk like that, you know? So that's an experience. Sorry about that. It's not about me, it's about the truth. I'm just an instrument in that whole thing. How the super soul expressed itself just using one long hair. I looked like, you see these two lines. That was how I looked at that time. See these two lines? That's Prithu does in 1968. A long beard. And so there you could see that ultimately he didn't know what he was talking about. He was just pretending to be a big yogi. It's all, So we should not be blinded by materialistic people and their big endeavors to try to understand why don't they understand ever the Big Bang? Where's the Big Bang coming from? If there is a Big Bang. We know it comes from the pores of Lord Vishnu. It's clearly described. That's the Big Bang right there. We don't have a big contraption and spending millions of dollars to find. They will never find the Big Bang because you cannot catch Krishna. Mother Yashoda tried to catch Krishna, but Krishna was always 2 inches ahead of her. So you cannot catch God and the origin of the universe. You never. They will come with a newer theory and another theory, this theory, that theory. Now they're talking about the God particle already. Scientists in Switzerland talk about the God particle. God is evasive. You can never understand it. Queen Kunti was saying that, my dear Lord, nobody can understand you. We are limited. We cannot understand God. And so this idea to find the origin of the universe is just another attempt of materialists to kill Krishna. Because if they found Krishna, then let's kill him. As we have seen all the demons in Krishna Leela. Ultimately, they all want to kill Krishna, And so they're building big contraptions. How can we kill this Krishna? How can we catch this Krishna? They're jealous of Krishna. That's what it is. The whole world is nothing but jealousness of Krishna. They want to be God. And so everybody has this God project. Even if you just have a family, you want to be the God of the family. Or you have some other God project that you want to be winning the football match for the Germans, for the German people. And you want to be the God of a country. You want to be God of your little beer drinking club, the top of it. Everybody has, you become the head of the rabbit breeding society. It's a big position, have something, or a position, whatever it may be. So everybody wants to have this little God project, right? Isn't it? You agree? That's what it is, having a God project. I want to control everything. And this is exactly the mentality where we are here in the material world. And we have no idea how the material nature is going on and how we, the living entities, actually appearing in the material world by the glance of the Mahavishnu. No, but Shiva. Mahavishnu is part and part, is a Purusha avatar, but actually the Mahavishnu is also identical with Sri Advaita. Also Advaita, no? We cannot, we have to just take it from scripture as it is. We can't figure that out, ultimately. But we have to just, in awe, in respect. The child father said, God is great. And the child said, he doesn't understand it. He said, God is great. That's it. Prabhupada asked Saraswati, the daughter of Shamasundara, who is Krishna? And he said, he is the supreme personality of God. Prabhupada, he has perfect knowledge. Because that's true, It may not be the whole thing. It may not be entire understanding of this is anyway achintya beda, But it is true. So we can learn Krishna partially, perfectly, but partially, within our capacity. And if you go down this road of Bhakti Yoga, becoming closer and closer and closer and closer. Closer and closer. This boy, let me get my computer out here. I'll show you. Oh, need some help. I can't get it out. Yesterday I couldn't remember the name of this boy who was living in our ashram. Remember, the boy had AIDS and he died. Remember that story? So I was looking for his picture, and I found it. And I was sure this picture is awesome. This is right seconds after he died. Where is it? Here. Where is it? Here, there I go. Namahata was his name. So his guru was screaming on the telephone, Namahata, go out of your body, right? And then there was some noise in the room in the long building. And there days before, I had the ladies there, remember? And he stood up in his bed, he fell unconscious. And I asked him later when he became, he said, what did you see? He said, a miracle. Miraculoso, something very wonderful. And so, at the moment of death, this is how he looked. Very beautiful. His eyes are up, like we see Lord Chaitanya's eyes, you know. He saw, you can reach, hand this around somebody, let everybody see. He's a great saint. He just left his body, beautifully. Isn't it beautiful? I put the garland, I didn't close his eyes. I wanted people to see, and I put the garland around his head, you know, because I was so intensely moved by his departure, you know, it was intensely. It was an absolute fantastic soul selling 5,000 Bhagavad Gita sometimes a day by going to a factory and convincing the factory owner with 5,000 people working, so you've got to do this, it will save your life, and it saves the life of your members. And so, all right, how much is it? Italy. Italy is a pious country. So I saw his life was exemplary up to the end, you know, and he died in Krishna. He was completely absorbed in Krishna. So Namahata is a great saint, and I'm glad that I met him. This is Krishna's mercy, that I could do some service to this great soul who nobody wanted to have, practically speaking, in his ashram, because people are blinded by selfish interests, you know. So Shiva, that's why I'm explaining, people have no idea what Shiva's position is, you know. They worship Mahesh. This is true. You go to India, so many people worship Mahesh. And even there was one devotee in Poland. He was a devotee and he became a disciple of Mahesh. But he doesn't know who that is. Mahesh is just an expansion of the Sadashiva. It's just, in the material world, it's Mahesh that people worship. And it's just a part and parcel of the Sadashiva, and he's just part and parcel of Gadadhar that we think. See, Gadadhar is right there on the left side on the altar, you know. So we have such a complete vision of things due to knowledge. You have to have knowledge. This is knowledge. When one is enlightened by knowledge, by which darkness is destroyed, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, his knowledge reveals everything, just like the darkness is destroyed by the light, you know. It's right in Bhagavad Gita, so we have knowledge. Without knowledge, we cannot understand a thing. You know, we cannot understand a thing. So this now, you know how the living entity comes in the material world. We are eternal, but we're coming to the material world through the glance of the Sadashiva. And this way, we are sons of God. We are sons of God. In the Bible, it says, our Father, who is in heaven. They will tell you, that God has many sons. No, it's only one son. Where do you get this idea from? There's only one son. You say, well, our Father who's in heaven. So we are obviously children of God. They say, well, we are not really children of God. We are the children of our earthly father who produced us at the time of conception. He makes us. He's the Father. But by the mercy of Jesus, if you turn to him, we become adopted sons of God. This type of philosophy, you know. It's so far away, it's so bizarre and so far away, and people believe that. They believe that, it's a doctrine. that we are the adopted sons of God. It's in the Roman Catholic Catechism. It is ridiculous. There's no substance to it, there's no evidence to it, there's no authority to it. In the material world, people make up things, so many things about God which has no authority. That's why our Krishna Das Kaviraj says in, let me just find it 1 second, Adi Lila. How do you find that? Adi Lila. Give me just a moment to think. Theories, there it is. Lord Chaitanya's theories. Theories. Sri Chaitanya Prabhu Vande Balo Piyat Anugrahat Tara Nana Mata Graha Vyaptam Siddhanta Sagaram. You should remember this verse. It's from Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila, 2nd chapter, verse number 1. The first verse. Wahnsinn. I offer my obeisance to Sri Chaitanya Prabhu, by whose mercy even an ignorant child can swim across the ocean of conclusions about the absolute truth. This conclusion, that conclusion. An ocean of conclusions, all based on. That's why Prabhupada said, some devotee said to Prabhupada, I'm thinking, Prabhupada said, don't do that. Because that's not knowledge, that's just opinion, Prabhupada asked Auruni Nandana on a morning walk, I was right there, I saw there was a sign, and Prabhupada said, what does that mean? And Auruni Nandana Prabhu said, I think it is. Prabhupada said, don't do that. Don't tell me what you think, tell me what you know. Prabhupada said right there, don't tell me what you think, tell me what you know. If you don't know, then if you want to think, you should think in a closet. That means you should go into your own room and think whatever you want to think. Think in a closet. But don't tell me something you think. Because that's not knowledge, you think, So the whole world is full of conclusions about the absolute ultimate truth, which is full of the crocodiles of various theories. That's what it is. This theory, this religion, this sect, this group, etc. It's not based on Shastra. It's not authorized. Ultimately, in the ultimate issue, it is just exactly that. Somebody made it up at one stage, and people follow that because of a lack of knowledge. I explained to you before the example that it says a point in the sky moving. Somebody said that is a kite, a kite that kids play with. Somebody, no, not a kite, it's a plane, airplane. Somebody said, no, that's a bird. And somebody else said, that's Batman. It's definitely Batman. And so in this way they established different theories, to which there is no reality at all. It's not based on realization, it's not based on knowledge. It's just exactly that. I think. You ask every scientist, he will tell you, I think. Because basically speaking, the whole literature that is assembled in our libraries of the world, of this type of thinking, no loss if they're all gone. Because they're full of speculation that are ultimately no meaning. It's just somebody's uttered somebody. It's just like somebody passed air, it will not smell forever. It's just, there's no reality to it in terms of spiritual life. It's just somebody's idea. And people are so proud of their ideas. Prabhupada said, by the grace of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, one can achieve real knowledge of the essence of knowledge by avoiding these sectarian views and accepting the lotus feet of Krishna as the ultimate goal of life. Then he says, let us therefore all worship Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for his gracious mercy to us conditioned souls. Wonderful. Let's forget about all that. So forget about it. Just worship Lord Chaitanya. Like Like who was the Shankaracharya? He said, Bhaja Govinda, Bhaja Govinda, Bhaja Govinda. He was the head of the Shankaracharya Sampradaya. He said, forget all that, all the theories, all that. We just worship Govinda. Bhaja Govinda, Bhaja Govinda, Bhaja Govinda. Muda mate, you fools. Muda, you fools. You know, just worship Krishna, you fools. And then you get, Krishna will help you. You know, because if you develop your own ideas, then, like Arjuna says here in Bhagavad Gita, O Krishna, what is the situation of those who do not follow the principle of authorized scripture, but worship him according to their own imagination? It's right in the Bhagavad Gita. You don't follow Shastra, Guru, Shastra, Sadhu. You have to worship according to ultimately to the imagination of Saint Paul. If you're Christian. All Christianity, it doesn't matter whether Baptists or Methodists or evangelicals, they all follow, they're actually disciples of Paul. Jesus spoke the truth. Paul invented Christianity. Jesus was not a Christian. As simple as that, you know. So simple once you understand it. Then he says, O son of Bart, according to one's existence under the mode of nature, one evolves in his mind a particular kind of faith. The living entity is said to be of a particular faith according to the mode of nature he acquired. So religion, that's why there's so many different natures according to the nature of the person. You know, he invents. And Krishna really, it says in Bhagavatam, Bhishma says, Dharman tu sakshat bhagavat pranitam navai vidur rishayo napadev nasita mukhya asura manushya kuto no vidyadhara chanara naha. Real religious principles are only accepted by God. Dharman hi sakshat bhagavat pranitam. Only God. Only God. And I'm happy this. Mataji, in the back, what was your name? I can't remember names. She told me that her pastor in Mecklenburg, Protestant pastor, he said, the Bible is written by man, but Bhagavad Gita is spoken by God. That is really something. I want to see this guy. I want to go there all the way. Next time I want to talk. This is the guy I want to talk to. You know, because he's not bewildered, you know, by semantic jugglery or religious theories, constructs, not bewildered. He can see that is given by Krishna. It says here, real religion is given by God. Although fully situated in the mode of goodness, even the great sages who occupy the topmost planets cannot understand the real religious principles, not by their own minds, nor the demigods, nor the demons, nor the leaders of Siddha Loka, to say nothing of asuras, vidyadharas, charana, what to speak of ordinary living entities like you, me, or the Pope. It's very simple, so clear, you know. So we have to read these things because ordinary people see through their eyes and through their senses. It says in the Bible, they have eyes and do not see, they have ears and do not hear, you know. But the sage, he sees through Scripture. That's how he sees, through the Guru Parampara. And therefore he knows, you know. And somebody said, Prabhupada said the scientists didn't go to the moon. What did they see? Prabhupada said, if they went or not, what did they see? Just stones and dust. And when you go to the National Space Museum in Washington, I was there. There are the moonstones there exhibited in a glass box. 2 miles long line of people want to go there to see the moonstone. They go, worshiping to the rocks that may be coming from the moon or maybe from the zone of Arizona, from the desert of Arizona. That's the situation, you know. And so the reality of the moon god, Chandra Loka, is not accessible to us. Even if it is right there, like Shiva, he sits right there in front of our nose if you go to Kailash. but we cannot see him because we are blind fools. Those Christians are blind fools, you know. So I thank you very much that you tolerated my rantings and my ravings again. I wish you all the best for your life. I'm going to leave today. I'm going to miss you all terribly. It was wonderful to be here and speak something. And I must say that this is the place I've not seen this temple, this farm, like this in a very long time. You know, there's life here. People they're strong, they have good management, people have Jews, they preach, books are going out, and then everything will flourish. Prabhupada, one time, Brahmananda told me, we were friends. You know Brahmananda? He was very big. He was a big eater. You know, he at one time asked Srila Prabhupada, I eat too much prasadam. And Prabhupada said, that is still good, but not very good. And one time he told me, I said, Brahmananda, you eat too much. I told this already to many of you. You eat too much. And I said, Prithu, there's one verse in Bhagavad Gita which is very important to me. That a true yogi never eats too much and never eats too little. I follow this verse by 50%. And one time, this is a funny story. I drove one time, he brought me to the airport in JFK, New York. And I met him, he was living in the temple, in the skyscraper temple. I mean, that's really a long time ago. And one Mataji made me a huge bag of samosas. Now I made the mistake, he was driving and I was sitting on the passenger seat. I made the mistake, I put them between us. So after some time I said, Prithu, he said, this smell drives me mad. Can I have a look what that is? Yes, Brahmananda. Samosas, my favorite. Prithu, can I have one? I said, sure. He said, all right. Took it. I said, the taste is incredible. I feel like in the spiritual world. Can I have another one? I said, sure. Can I have another one? Another one? Another one? I said, sure, sure. Then he wouldn't ask me anymore. He just look at me. He just look at me. Then he said, Prithu, there's only one left. You don't need that, isn't it? I said, you go ahead. He ate 20 samosas. In Los Angeles, he ate 82 gulab jams in one sitting. 82. People had to carry him. He was hallucinating. He was hallucinating. And people told me, when you came onto Vatseka Avenue, you heard this. Who is that? Brahmananda. He said, we can't get him up. You know, and they had to carry 18 people had to carry him upstairs because he was massive. You know, that's Brahmananda. Lovely person, really sweet. He could, when you talk with him about Prabhupada, he would tears were in his eyes. He would cry sometimes. You know, he would cry. And one time we went. I'll tell you another story. He went to Berlin. There was some irregularity in our finances, and Prabhupada said this is a time way back when I joined. So Prabhupada sent him because he heard there was some irregularity, where's the money and what happened. And so he came as an investigator, and I was in Berlin Temple. So he investigated the finances. And so he opened the newspaper and said, Darshan, what was it? Swami Krishnananda is giving Darshan. He said, let's go. Let's check this out. I mean, he was like that. Let's check him out. So we went there. We went into Berlin, somewhere in some part, and there was an apartment block, and there was a Swami Krishnananda. We opened the door. We rings the bell. Young boy came out, about 20 years old, and he was 97% naked. It's just a little triangle the size of a Briefmarke that's covering his whatever you call it. I said, oh, come inside, you're welcome, I'm so happy to see you. I said, all right, we go inside, waiting what's happening. And then he was sitting down, and then he called, Devi. And then she came, she was 100% naked. And he said, he faced him, put her legs around him, and they started fondling. So Brahmana said, what is that supposed to be? You know, what's that supposed to be? He said, we are enacting the pastimes of Shiva and Parvati. So Brahmananda said, let's go. He said, you have not understood. I've not explained the philosophy. Brahmananda said, we have understood. We have already understood. And so we walked out, and outside he embraced me with a big bear. He said, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. You have any questions? Yeah, please. It's wonderful to be with him, you know. Never a dry moment, you know. It's Brahmananda Prabhu. It's very entertaining.
Hare Krishna.
What was your name? I forgot. Julian, yeah, okay.
Is this on?
I want to make a photo of all of you before I leave, that I know this person is that.
Hare
Julian, come on.
Krishna. Hare Krishna? No.
Come on. Come on, baby, light my fire.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. You talked about Shiva, and that Shiva is an expansion of Sadashiva, and Sadashiva is Mahavishnu. So the question that comes in my mind is, what happens to all the Shaivas?
They get to Shiva, wherever Shiva is. If they don't have a grudge against Krishna, you find many Shaivas have a grudge against Krishna. They don't accept Krishna. I mean, I went one time to, what was that place? Haridwar. We wanted to go to the Himalayas, and it was a very hot day. So there were so many trees, and everybody was gathering under a tree, you know. And when we came, there was a whole tree of Shaivites sitting with tridents and really, I mean, Baba, you know, and every boom, boom, Shiva, you know. And so we went there and said, you go away, we don't want to, it's a Vaishnava, you get away, we don't want anything to do with Vaishnavas. It became really aggressive, you know, became very aggressive. So, because they know we don't accept Shiva as Bhagavan, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they know that. You know, so they're not pleased. For them, he's Bhagavan, and they're ready to fight for it. You don't want to pick a fight with Shivas. They take their trident and stick it into your stomach. You know? That's the answer. They don't understand Krishna, you know. When the sages were questioning who is the most powerful person in the world, I forgot the name. Bhrigu Muni, you know. So Bhrigu Muni went and saw first Brahma, right? Brahma. And Brahma, he didn't bow down before Brahma, Bhrigu Muni. And so Brahma became upset a little bit, but he controlled himself, you know. He became upset, he became angry, isn't it? Yes. He became angry, but he controlled himself. So then he went to see Shiva and didn't bow down. Shiva freaked out. He was about to kill him, isn't it?
He actually insulted him.
Insulted him, his words, even worse. Insulted him, his words, and what happened then?
Yes.
He was about to kill him.
Parvati saved Bhrigu.
Parvati told him,
She called her husband.
don't do that. She pacified her husband. The husband was outraged. When the husband is outraged, the duty has to come, please, don't do that. You know, let's eat prasadam. I cooked some very special for you. Then he went to Lord Vishnu, and he kicked Lord Vishnu into the breast, which is a worse offense. The first was just by demeanor, not paying respect. And the other one was by becoming angry, because Lord Shiva is in the mood of passion. Vishnu is in the mood of goodness. He kicked, and Lord Vishnu said, I'm so sorry. My breast is so hard. Did you hurt yourself? You know? So he was, and then the sage Bhrigu Muni understood that he's supreme. Krishna is supreme. And by the way, when Vamandev kicks a hole into the universe, right? There's 3 steps. One, it kicks a hole and the Ganga came out, and that Ganga was so powerful that it was Lord Shiva who took it on his head. Right? Why would he do that? Why would he, if he's superior, if I take the water on somebody's head from somebody's feet, that means I recognize he's superior. Right? Just in this situation. And why, when the Shiva Dvara and the Vishnu Dvara were fighting in Krishna Lila, and the Shiva Dvara ran away? Why is that? Who's superior? There are many examples to that from Shastra, which shows that Lord Shiva is at the feet of Lord Vishnu. You know, there's no doubt about it. You know, and we worship definitely. I mean, in our temple, in what is that now? Yoga Pit. Behind the Yoga Pit is a temple of Shiva. What is he doing there? He's protecting the Dham. He's protecting the Dham, that there's no intruders. He takes that position. He's a doorman for Lord Chaitanya. He's acting as a doorman. So there are so many Shastric examples, there's no doubt in our mind that he is considered to be the greatest Vaishnava, And one should actually, when you go to Vrindavan, there's one Shiva, you should actually, by custom, you should go first there and ask him for permission to enter the Dham. Anybody knows something about that? That Shiva is when there's some, you know, when you go to Loy Bazaar, there's at one stage there's some elephants somebody sells ghee there, and there's some elephants there on top of the roof. There's a temple there, you go inside. That is a Shiva that we have to ask for permission, you know, before we enter the Dham. So Krishna, clearly stated by Brahma, Ishvara Sarava Paramakrishna, Supreme Controller is Krishna, Satchitananda Vigraha. He is Satchitananda, Ananda is cause of all causes, Sarva Karana Karanam, he's the cause of all causes. That's right there. And in Bhagavatam, it says, although there's he explains different incarnations of God. He said, although there's so many incarnations of Krishna, ultimately, what is it? The verse, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Forgot this one.
Krishna's truth, Bhagavan Swayam.
Huh?
Krishna's truth, Bhagavan Swayam.
Huh?
Krishna's truth, Bhagavan
Who
Swayam.
says that? Yeah, that's it, you know. That Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. All the sages say. And Krishna says, there's no truth, I'm the source of everything, the whole creation rests upon me. The wise who know this worship me with all their hearts. There's no truth beyond me. All universes are resting on me like pearls on a thread. That's what Krishna says. And with a little section of myself, I support and maintain the whole universe. That's what Krishna says. Shiva never said that. Krishna says. That's why we have faith. Krishna makes clear statements everywhere in Bhagavad Gita, because I'm the Lord of everything. Therefore I'm worshipped by everyone. It's Krishna. And so therefore we may be a small movement. In the eyes of the materialists, this movement is very powerful. Very powerful. You know, and ultimately it will take time. Brahmananda said, Prabhupada painted lotus flower. And it put ISKCON inside. This is in the very beginning. And Brahmananda said, why are you putting ISKCON into a lotus flower? Why do that? He said, because from the mud, his Prabhupada said, a lotus flower grows. And gradually it becomes bigger and bigger, and ultimately it opens up. And what is in this lotus flower is gone. He said, it will take some time. From the mud. From the mud. I mean, how many crazy people we had in our temple at times. From the mud, something beautiful grows. That's it. It's going to take time. It's a beautiful lotus flower that comes to blossom in time. And therefore you have in Czech Republic, you have an 8-year-old boy who's standing 64 rounds every day. 64 rounds every day. And Prabhupada said that there's another generation of people, you know, coming in due course of time. My own grandchild in Sweden now is 9 years. He reads the whole Chaitanya Bhagavat from the beginning to the end. I can show you a picture where he carries all these Bhagavats. He went through whole Bhagavatam from the beginning to the end already, you know. So you will see that in due course of time, extraordinary people come to this movement, you know, extraordinary level, you know, like even in our temple in Belfast, for 30 years there were 3 people living in the temple. There's one person coming from a young Indian man, doctor for engineering or something, and he came to the temple, and within 1 month we have 150 people coming to the temple, because he is from Vaishnava tradition. His adhikar, that means the beginning of his life, is on a much higher level. We are all produced like cats and dogs, practically speaking. Most of us. Very few of us have actually a proper adhikar. Hare Krishna. Isn't it? Hare Krishna. If you have proper adhikar, if you ask your father when and where they are produced, he will tell you. Because he knows. The normal people know. You ask your parents, where actually did you produce? I have no idea. What? Under what circumstance? Was it in a car? Was it in a train? Was it in a bush? No idea. There's no question of samskara. What's that called? Samskara?
Garbhodana samskara.
Huh? Garbhodana samskara. It's not there. That means you're already inhibited in the ability, But the holy name, of course, can correct all that. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Go Premananda Hari Hari Bol. Isn't it wonderful?